49ers. Peter King joined Willard and Dibs yesterday, and he said, man, don't overlook Josh Dobbs and the Arizona Cardinals.
Sometimes you can just watch a player and say, man, he's confident. He belongs. And that is exactly what I see right now when I watch Josh Dobbs. Totally fearless. Absolutely fearless. And he plays so hard. He plays so confidently. And I think, look, everybody says the bubble will burst. The Cardinals are not that good. They're coming into San Francisco. They'll get their comeuppance in Santa Clara on Sunday. And they well may be. But just think about this. They have had leads in the second half of every one of their first three games. Okay? They had a 20-point lead over the Giants. They had a 12-point lead over the Cowboys. And so they have had big leads now in all of their games. Well, they had a normal lead. I forget how many points it was, but it wasn't a lot against Washington in week one. And at some point you have to say, they've been ahead in the second half of all these three games. How could that be a fluke? It's not a fluke. Watch the games. Just watch the games. And look, this is not, I think the 49ers will win the game. This is not a walkover by any stretch of the imagination.
Where are you at with the Arizona Cardinals? As we talk about some of the more recognizable Arizona Cardinals, they don't have a deep history. They have a very losing history that I'll get into in a second. But let's react to Peter King about overlooking the Cardinals. I don't think Shanahan and company are overlooking the Cardinals after what he just said and after what they just watched on tape, being up 20-0 on the New York Giants, handling the Dallas Cowboys the way they did. They've got speed on the outside. They've got a great running back in James. I don't want to say great, a very good running back in James Conner. And Dobbs is playing well. And their defense is flying around the football, man. Kaiser White, that middle linebacker, number 7, he's a baller, man. They're hitting around. They're flying around. I don't think the 49ers will overlook the Cardinals by any stretch of the imagination, Shasky.
No, nor should they. These divisional opponent games are always very unique. And the Cardinals in particular, sneakily have the Niners number. If you look at the NFC West, I know that Seattle gets a lot of headlines for being a team that suffocated the Niners for, 17 straight games at one point. Look at the game logs between the Niners and the Cardinals over the last 15 years. Cardinals have gotten the Niners many times when the Niners are good.
2nd and 5. This is Eno Benjamin. A little hop step, and he trucked Dre Kirkpatrick and takes it in for the touchdown.
Oh, my goodness. And guess what? You know who's on the call this Sunday?
Who?
Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez. I like Mark Sanchez and Kevin Kugler.
They won 9 in a row. The Cardinals did. From 2015 through 2018.
Yeah. They had the Niners number.
9 in a row.
Remember Josh Rosen's 2 of his wins in his career was against the 49ers. I think that was their first game ever at Levi Stadium, right?
Yeah, it took
their
Maggie.
First offensive snap.
Yeah.
Josh Rosen threw a 75-yard touchdown pass to Christian Kirk.
I'm not sleeping on them. And then Rondale Moore, he's starting to wake up. And I always thought very highly of him. Not that he's on the level of Debo, but he's a Swiss Army knife type player who could be utilized in a lot of different ways. So to see him look good early on in this season is interesting. Josh Dobbs, what a great story. The guy went into the Arizona Cardinal team store the other day looking for his own jersey and couldn't find it.
Yeah, that's wild. That is wild. And don't sleep on Hollywood Brown. I know how you feel about Hollywood Brown.
But he does make plays.
But he makes plays, and he's got speed that you have to respect.
He's Tedkin Jr. He's always open over the top.
Always open over the top. So you can't sleep on Hollywood Brown. But since 1949, Shasky, this organization in the Arizona/St. Louis/Phoenix Cardinals, they changed names, and they're trying to find an identity for so long. They've been to the postseason 8 times since 1949. 8 times since 1949.
That's kind of crazy.
The Niners have been to the postseason 6 times since 2010.
Wow.
Think about that. This organization has been awful for many, many years. A lot of people thought the Bidwells were the laughingstocks. They were the worst of the worst. They were the Chris Cohens of the NFL. And still there's, a jury out on Michael Bidwell with the way he handled Steve Keim. He kept him around for so long. He finally got rid of him. And he finally handed the keys over to a professional in that organization. So they're trying to find their identity with Coach Gannon right now.
Well, and I would put the Cardinals as one of the teams that's kind of reprogrammed our thought process on quarterbacking, even though it hasn't worked to the success level that they anticipated.
Right.
Moving off Josh Rosen after 1 year was unheard of in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And them drafting Kyler Murray so quickly after just taking Josh Rosen, A, it was the right decision. But B, now everyone feels like, oh, well, if you can upgrade immediately, who cares if it's 1 year? If you think you can get a better player, you're good. Now, it's not to the level of the Niners whiffing on Trey Lance and being able to pivot to Brock Purdy.
Right.
But I don't think you get to the point where they do what they do without the step of what the Arizona Cardinals did. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. It does. 8 postseason appearances since 1949. The Cardinals have been a laughingstock. But you bring up Kyler Murray. Do you think Michael Bidwell, the owner, is sitting back thinking, gosh, what if I did stick with Josh Rosen for 1 more year and just drafted Nick Bosa?
That absolutely has to be playing into their heart. But I think when you're a bad team, a bad organization, what's the thing that you hyper focus on?
The quarterback, right?
All day.
All day. But
and it feels like you have to get that person. And if I'm running the Cardinals from a PR standpoint, having Kyler Murray probably gives us a better Q rating than having Nick Bosa.
Right.
That may not be the better win-loss thing for X's and O's and game planning. I think every GM in the league is taking Bosa over Kyler.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think every GM.
Every GM. And they didn't. They took Kyler over Bosa.
Thank God they did.
And you think about the 49ers in 2017, we were coming down Shanahan and Lynch's road for so long about not getting a quarterback. Mm-hmm. They drafted Solomon Thomas. Kind of the same thing where it's like they passed up the quarterback because we wanted the Q rating, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, wow, Solomon Thomas should be a quarterback. And some people agree. It was like, oh, you don't want to bring a quarterback in to start the clock or whatnot.
That's a good point.
But the Niners, the Cardinals, I mean, they talked to Bosa. And Bosa told Steve Keim and Michael Bidwell, if you don't draft me, you will regret it.
This is going to be an unpopular opinion. Had the Niners not had Jimmy G, I mean, there's a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas. If Bosa does go to Arizona, and let's say hypothetically, the Niners take Kyler Murray, I think he'd be really successful with the Niners.
In Shanahan's offense?
I do.
Absolutely. But Shanahan...
Would he be better than Brock? I don't know, but I think
he'd be very
good.
He'd be very good. Absolutely. Oh, this fan base would have went crazy for Kyler Murray. Crazy, but that's the difference. And now you look at where the Niners are at with Nick Bosa, DPOY. And now we look at Kyler Murray, where he has clauses in the contract to study a certain amount of time.
I know.
And I watched that Hard Knocks last year, the in-season Hard Knocks with the Arizona Cardinals. I'm like, boy, Kyler is very immature in terms of study habits, in terms of focus, in terms of sideline demeanor. He's got to get better in that situation. I like him as a player. The guy's not used to losing. Some guys can't handle losing.
It's a lower-level Sam Bowie, Michael Jordan thing? Is that where you're going? Even though Akeem went number 1 that year?
It's going to be – I don't think it gets talked about enough, Shasky. The Cardinals taking Kyler Murray over Nick Bosa. And then you get Quinnen Williams going to the Jets, who's also balling right now.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that, and you think about their draft history, their organization, 8 playoff appearances since 1949. And so I get this week where Niner fans are thinking, well, it's the Arizona Cardinals. Like, do the Niner fans take the Arizona Cardinals seriously as an NFC West opponent or as an NFC West rival?
No.
We look at the Rams in Seattle, and I think a lot of Niner fans look at the Cardinals in a way that we looked at the Padres for so many years.
Bonte, well, at least the Padres, I knew people from San Diego who were Padre fans.
Okay, maybe the Rockies then.
Bonte, I've never met a Cardinal fan.
Wow.
All my years of going to games against the Cardinals, they've been now in the NFC West for 20-something years, 21 years, I believe.
Yep.
I've never physically shook hands with a Cardinal fan. How about you? I can't think of one person I know who's a Cardinal fan.
I don't know one Cardinal fan.
I know a couple of Padre fans.
Right. How many people could name, if I took away Larry Fitzgerald, Anquan Bolden, Kurt Warner, I say Pat Tillman, Aeneas Williams, Patrick Peterson. If I took away some of these studs that they've had in their organization, how many people can name 5 Cardinals? Like, I knew Dan Dierdorf was a Cardinal only because he worked in the Monday Night Booth.
Jake Plummer.
Jake Plummer. There you go.
Well, I always do the Stump Mitchell.
Ricky Prohl?
Ricky Prohl's a good one. I always do Stump Mitchell because I used to collect cards.
Right.
And he went 1,000 one year, and he was part of the 1,000-yard club. And, Otis Anderson, I think, is best known as a New York Giant. But he was an Arizona Cardinal first, or a Phoenix Cardinal, or whatever the heck their designation was at that particular time. I think of Emmitt Smith at the end of his career running things out. I think of Edgerrin James at the end of his career running things out. it to me is a retirement location
Right.
for a lot of great players who are at the end of their rope.
Right. No, that's a good point.
More than it is like
Yep.
a spot where guys build their career.
And I think it also hurt them that they were the afterthought in the NFC East. When you talked about the NFC East with the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington football team, now the Commanders, and you think about the Philadelphia Eagles, the lowly Arizona Cardinals were in that division. And I get it, they were in St. Louis for a long time. They were in the NFC East, and people were thinking like, oh, NFC East, the Arizona Cardinals?
I know.
And they were like the laughing. Nobody took them seriously.
No.
Philadelphia, New
No.
York, Dallas, did not matter. And their one moment, I remember their first shining moment in my lifetime, it felt like, was when they beat the Dallas Cowboys in a wild card game with Jake Plummer. Remember that?
I do.
Texas Stadium? That was like their one moment. It was like their Super Bowl. It was like, oh my God, we made it. And then they weren't good for a long time. And then along comes Bruce Arians, along comes Kurt Warner or whatnot. And they did make a run under Ken Wisenhunt, I should
Yes,
say.
Wisenhunt.
Wisenhunt.
Wow.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember
And
him.
they made a run, and it was one of the more fascinating Super Bowls I've ever watched.
He was the Steeler offensive coordinator.
Steeler offensive coordinator.
So, like, when I think of the Arizona Cardinals and the 49ers,
Matt Leinart. That's a good one.
you know what I think of? Like, Niners-Cardinals. I think of both teams being garbage and being one of the early Monday Night Football
The doubleheader.
matchups of the year to just get it out of the way and being on the back end of a doubleheader.
Yeah,
that's what
a
I
good
think
point.
of.
Wow, David Boston. David Boston.
David
up
Boston,
there.
Roy Rage.
Right. Wow, road rage. So they did, somebody brought up a point. Hey, Bonte, man, they did start off hot in 2021.
They were
8-0. They were actually
incredible.
7-0.
Yeah.
They were 7-0 before they lost to the Green Bay Packers on a Thursday night football game.
Well, that's the problem with Kyler right now is I actually think Kyler's better than we give him credit for. There's a lot of off-field stuff. No one is saying he's a top 10 player. His talent on his best day is top 10 worthy.
Yep.
But that's not what makes a quarterback. What makes a quarterback is the studying habits, the maturity, the leadership,
Yep.
understanding the playbook, what you do in and out of the facility, how you represent the team. And clearly he's got a long way to go there. The guy's ridiculously talented.
Yeah, no doubt.
Ridiculously talented.
But what is going to happen? Because we just heard from Peter King saying don't overlook Josh Dobbs.
He looks good.
What happens if he continues to roll and play at this level?
Well, they've got another decision to make. You're talking about, moving off quarterbacks. I think that they feel very similar to where Seattle was a couple years ago. If we can get somebody to take this contract off our hands, I think they do it.
Wow. Do you think they rush Kyler back? Do you think he comes back at any point this season?
I would give Kyler one more opportunity, but they have a injury clause in their contract where if he gets hurt again this year,
Right.
a lot of things become fully guaranteed. So they're in a very tough spot here. I would play him again. I would. I mean, I think you owe it to yourself to see if he can salvage his career. He's had highs. He's had lows. Look at their roster overall.
It's not a good
never
roster.
Been great.
So I took over their roster on Madden, and I was playing with them on Madden. And I was like, oh my gosh, just to kind of get it.
bad.
It's not Madden, but you just look at the players that they have. A lot of no names. Kyler Murray, he's owed $16 million this season, and then guess what?
60.
51 in 2024. $45 million in 2025. $55.5 million in 2026. $43.3 million in 2027. That's what Kyler is owed.
It's a lot of money.
That is a ton of money.
And if he gets hurt again, he's got banged up at the end of both seasons, last year and the year before, and it's really cost them. I think the way that they lost that playoff game, people can't forget that.
No, the way he kind of
They kinda
just threw it up,
quit.
they kind of just threw in the
It
white
felt like
towel.
they quit.
Felt like he quit. He did quit. I don't want to say that. That's
No,
too
but it
harsh,
felt like
it
that.
felt
I
like
think that was the
watching it.
impression.
Yep, no doubt.
That was the impression that people are left with, the final taste in their mouth.
Dublin Marge, Rondell Moore, 5'7", super speedy, good hands. I'm a fan. No, he's a solid player. And you see that run against the Dallas Cowboys, the Cardinals will line them up in the backfield. They'll run some of that jet sweep motion. They'll give him the ball kind of like the Niners do Deebo Samuel in the backfield. Rondell Moore's this nice player. He got a lot of speed on his football team. So I think the Cardinals did get the Niners' attention last week by beating the Cowboys. That was very interesting. The Niners got to sit back and watch both teams. And they're saying, all right, divisional opponent. And they know the goal in hand. Again, the goal in hand is the host of NFC Championship game at Levi Stadium. We're tired of traveling. Try to go into L.A., try to go into Philadelphia, try to go to Dallas. Get the bye week and host the NFC Championship game. That's the goal here. So I think the Niners, they're going to be hard pressed. Like, they're not overlooking the Arizona Cardinals, especially in what you just mentioned, the history that they have together. Shanahan has lost some bad games in Arizona.
Well, I'm very interested to see, Gannon's just team and his philosophy. Like, when Cliff Kingsbury was running things, Cliff, not that he had Shanahan's number, But he did give us fits.
Yeah.
They beat us that week 1, 2020, which kind of like sabotaged the entire season. You know, there's that loss where Jimmy Garoppolo at home to the Cardinals, where they just got the crud kicked out of them. Like, Arizona's been sneaky tough against Shanahan over the years. As much as Shanahan has owned McVay in the division and has beaten and gotten the best of Pete Carroll, it sure feels like Arizona's that little thorn in the side.
Some great names here. Our boy Joe Hawks, Frank Sanders, Rob Moore, Simeon Rice, Eric Swan, Kent
Simeon
Graham.
Rice. Wow.
Simeon Rice was
the name I haven't
Remember they
heard.
took Andre Wadsworth out of Florida State and never
Darnell
panned out?
Duckett?
Darnell Duckett.
Is it a name I think of?
Darnell Duckett, Florida
Oh,
State.
Dockett. Why did I think it was Duckett?
He was solid for them for
Yeah.
a long, long time.
Yeah.
Emmett Smith, we mentioned that. Andy Lee,
Chandler
David Boston,
Jones.
Johnny Johnson. Johnny Johnson. I remember old Johnny Johnson.
You're going way back.
Yeah, way back.
Way back.
Carter's had Adrian Morrell, former Jet. He was there.
I just don't think Cardinals hits the way. Like, to me, they're like the Thunder. Like, it just doesn't hit.
I wouldn't even say they're the Thunder.
You know what I mean?
Wouldn't
No,
you
but I'm
say
saying,
OKC?
like,
yeah.
just for older folks, like if you say we're playing the Thunder tonight, it's like,
Yeah.
you
No.
know what I mean? Like, it doesn't hit. Like,
Honestly.
even if the Celtics suck, if you go, hey, we're going to go see the Celtics, people are like, all right, hey, the St. Louis Cardinals, hey, they suck right now, but we're going to go see the St. Louis Cardinals. Like, it hits.
Right.
We're going to go see the Miami Marlins.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't hit.
No.
So this game, I'm full disclosure, this game, I looked at on the calendar. I said, babe, let's sit this one out. Instead of driving down to Santa Clara and sitting through the game and come back home, it's a long day. We can watch the Cardinals on the couch. It's a couch game. It's the ticket giveaway game. It's the, all right, do I have any favors to make? Do I need to do somebody a solid? It goes 2 tickets to the Niners and Cardinals. That's why I feel. It sucks that is the mentality. No matter what, I know the boss man's like, it's Cardinals week. Let's hype this up. Bay Area fans don't care about the Arizona Cardinals.
You know what I find to be very interesting, because you keep asking about Kyler and we're talking about him, and isn't Kyler the exact opposite of everything that Brock Purdy is?
Absolutely.
And isn't?
Absolutely.
Like, aren't they polar opposites? One guy is wildly talented. If I was doing all of the, combine things, he's spectacular plays, running around, ad-libbing, like all the random crazy highlight stuff, deep bombs to win games in overtime, with none of the actual ordinary qualities that make a quarterback spectacular.
Yeah, no,
The prep, the appreciation from your teammates, the ability to hit the normal play, pre-snap recognition, playing within structure. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, that's why I watched the in-season Hard Knocks to get a glimpse of what Kyler's all about. And I'm watching him in the quarterback room. Colt McCoy was dominating the quarterback room. Colt McCoy was a voice in that quarterback room.
Let's keep talking about that.
Let's keep talking about it, because I'm looking at the money, and there's no doubt I would rather have Brock Purdy right now than Kyler Murray.